Hello my friends and thank you for joining me. My name is Julia and today I create an Easter shadow box inspired by Tracy Evans, who has a class for shadow boxes in her Facebook group. I will be using stamps and stencils from Aall Create in this guest design project, and I will link to them in the description box below. I start with stamping my main character, a rooster from a stamp set called Feathered Friends, number 559, by Bipasha BK, and I stamp him in VersaFine Onyx Black ink and cover with Wow's Ebony Superfine embossing powder and melt, so those stamped lines in this image are chunky, shiny and black. Next I stamp another image from the same set with pretty little chickens, and I do the same procedure and heat emboss those chickens so they stand out with those bold black shadows. Next I color my rooster in Distress inks in Wilted Violet and Villainous Potion. I smoosh them on my mat and color, starting with the darkest Villainous Potion. I use it where I want shadows and contrast, and fill in the rest with Wilted Violet. Sometimes I go back and do the same procedure again, adding shadow and blending out with a light purple. I use Wild Honey Orange Distress ink for the beak and picked raspberry for what's on his head and under his chin. I color his super cool boots in that pink, and his shoelaces are colored purple. I use the ink that is left to flick little splatters all over the rooster to add to the grunginess of the black embossing. I'm using a Timholtz vignette tray that is 9 by 4 inches and distress paint in mustard seed and picked raspberry. I paint the tray except for the back panel, random in those colors, adding a few coats of color before I'm finished. Next, I'm coloring the chickens. I ended up using another chicken image cut apart later, but everything is embossed the same, colored in the same way, using the same distress inks in picked raspberry and kitsch flamingo as a highlight for the first chicken. The second chicken is colored with mustard seed and wild honey. I color the third chicken with tumbled gloss and peacock feathers. Next I have a stamp set called Astrantia number 452 by Tracy Evans, and I stamp 2 of the tall flowers so I can build up dimension by paper piecing the flowers with foam tape later. I color my flower heads with mustard seed, wild honey and crackling campfire, darkest in the center and lighter further out. I want some eggs too, so I use that feathered friend stamp set again, stamping and embossing some eggs. I do the same with one more flower from a stamp set called Violet, number 574 by Tracy Evans, just so the black, bold, heat embossing can be found on several places on this shadow box. For the background panel, I have a piece of cardstock that fits in my wood tray. I also have a stencil called Cracked Walls 1, number 37, and some texture paste. I push the paste through the stencil, not neat or precise, and when there is wall left where the stencil didn't reach, I go back and add more paste through the stencil so the whole background is full of bricks. I color the violet with mustard seed in the center, and because I don't want to mix yellow and purple, I let the centers dry and color in the leaves in the meantime with twisted citron and rustic wilderness. Then I go back and color in the purple around the center with wilted violet and villainous potion. I also color in the eggs in the same color combos as earlier. When my tray is dry, I bring out some sandpaper, but I don't want the dust everywhere, so I bring the tray outside and sand off a lot of color, letting the wood peek through those vibrant colors. Next, I will use ink sprays to color my brick background. I have dilution spray in ground coffee, along with lemon zest shimmer spray. I also use distress oxide sprays in vintage photo and picked raspberries, along with spray stain in wilted violet and mica spray stain in bubbling cauldron. So I have a mix of the chalky oxides, the vibrant dilutions ink, and shimmer sprays. I start with the green mica spray bubbling cauldron at the bottom, followed by vintage photo, ground coffee, picked raspberries, wilted violet, and lemon zest shimmer spray. My brick wall is dry, and to bring out the texture of the bricks, I will do some dry brushing. Now, dry brushing requires some patience that I don't have much of, but I do my best, starting with black acrylic paint and a stiff brush. You see how I dip my brush in black paint and tap off almost all the paint on my glass mat. Then I start brushing with a very light hand. That is so important. I brush so the paint only touches the sides of the bricks, using that super light hand, and taking my time brushing from all angles, only picking up the smallest amount of black paint when I need to. When I feel happy with the black, I bring out white gesso and do the same procedure, dry brushing. If you, like me, have a heavy hand, I would suggest holding the brush like you hold a pencil, forcing your hand to be light and using the smallest amount of paint. After the white, I did go back off camera to dry brush with black again, both to practice and because I wanted those bricks to stand out even more. Next, I have a bunch of twigs picked in our backyard. I also have these wood skewers that I cut down to smaller pieces. Then I get going, cutting down my twigs into smaller pieces as well, random, so they are not the same length. And then I bring out my hot glue gun and start building a fence of twigs, gluing them close together, but making sure that my fence is crooked and random. I, of course, made too many little fences because I didn't know how many I would need, but it turns out I only needed the one. Here is my little collection of things that would look cool in my shadow box. I won't use it all, but I will use one of the twig fences along with shredded book pages, moss, chicken wire, the wood letters spelling Happy Easter, and a rusty key. Now let's make some splatters on my brick wall, starting with black. Then I make splatters with distress paint in picked raspberries and mustard seed. I also splatter the same paint on my twig fences. Next, I paint those wood letters with distress paint in mustard seed and picked raspberries, and I added Dilution's purple paint because I have so much purple otherwise, and I want to tie everything together. I also made sure I used letters with different fonts. So, let's put this box together, starting with my sanded shadow box and the brick background. I used Distress Collage Medium to glue the brick panel in the box. Next, I glue a piece of chicken wire to the brick background. I have this piece of an old tree branch and I glue it on the roof of my shadow box to give myself some extra space to decorate. I glue the painted letters onto one of those sticks normally used to mix paint, and I glue the word happy in front of the branch. Next, I have this flower and a bunch of flower heads. I put foam tape behind every flower head and glue them on top of my tall flower. I have put 2 pieces of wire behind the rooster's legs to help him stand and put foam tape on top. Then I glue the word Easter under the word happy. Next, I'm using those shredded book pages. I put hot glue where I want the strips of paper and tuck them in between the letters. I do the same with the moss. I put hot glue on the stick the letters are standing on and cover it with moss, 1 piece at a time. I glue down one of the twig fences in the lower left corner and I glue my flower onto the background, putting hot glue behind the heavy flower heads. Then I put glue behind the fence and glue down more of the paper strips, and then I glue some more moss on the outside of the fence. I completely cover the base of the letters with moss. Then I take one of the chickens and glue it standing on the roof of the shadow box. I also glue a cluster of eggs at the end of the word Easter. I put my second chicken outside the fence and add some more moss before I glue down a rusty key I bought at a yard sale in the right corner. Next, I'm putting that violet flower on the edge of my box and a third chicken on the roof. To help the rooster stand, I put more shredded book pages in the opening next to the fence, and then I place the rooster with both metal wire and foam tape behind him on the edge next to the fence. And now, this mixed media Easter shadow box is finished. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. Until the next time, happy Easter!